Hello and welcome to the Voices of the Vic podcast with me, Ben Aiton, and James Batchelor. We're here to discuss Watford's 0-0 draw away at Manchester United, Watford's first point at Old Trafford since 1985. I wasn't even born, James, which you'll probably be surprised about. I get a lot of stick for saying I'm an old git in that. So, yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't born back then. But, yeah, it's a tough place to go to, Old Trafford, to actually pick up points, and Watford actually managed to go there yesterday and pick up a point. I don't think it's a deserved point. We'll get into the nits and gritty of it, but Watford were absolutely battered by Manchester United, and I still don't know how Man U didn't put one of those chances away. But who cares? We'll take the point. We'll add it to the title and tally, and hopefully we can grab some more points this season and try and get the survival from relegation. But yeah, with me is James Batchelor. James, how are you doing, mate? Enjoy watching that yesterday. You've been up to much today?
I did enjoy watching it yesterday. Actually, obviously, the point is good and it helps in the relegation battle. But as you say, Watford didn't really deserve to walk away from Old Trafford with a point. I thought it was a good point in general. I thought we defended well and we did very well to keep it 0-0. But I did enjoy the game. It's always great, watching Watford play Manchester United. And, it's been lovely weather this weekend as well. I've been outside. Actually, I'll show you what I've been reading for everyone on YouTube. I've been reading my Troy Deeney autobiography. So I'm about halfway through this. So hopefully going to finish this within the next week. And I went to the cinema yesterday, Ben, as well. They were doing a deal, so I could go to the cinema for £3, which was very, very nice. The film wasn't very good, but yeah, I've had a good weekend. I don't know about you, but I've largely had a good weekend. Watford haven't lost, so that makes everything a lot better.
It always helps, mate, when Watford haven't lost. And I'm surprised we're actually here talking about a Watford point at the end of the day. I must say first, before we get into things, apologies that we didn't do a midweek podcast with reaction to a Crystal Palace result. It wasn't because we was fuming or anything with the result. We would have done it. But I've got tonsillitis and I still do at the moment. I had it Tuesday and my throat was so sore. So don't be surprised that I've got 2 pints of squash next to me now, and I've got to keep on drinking just to keep my throat a bit lubricated. But yeah, weekend's been all good. I've done some wedding planning today. Went to a venue and did more planning. I can't believe how much actually goes into a wedding, mate. Luckily, my missus picks up all the majority of it. But went there full intention for it to be about 45 minutes to an hour meeting. 2 hours later. And I was like, Jesus Christ! So I didn't realise how much went into it. But yeah, that's enough of that. We'll jump straight into the Watford game. So Watford obviously went to Old Trafford off the back of a 4-1 defeat at home to Crystal Palace. Quickly, James, before we get into Man United stuff, totally unacceptable to lose at home to Crystal Palace 4-1, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was honestly, it was dreadful. I mean, you say we didn't record during the week because you had tonsillitis. I really didn't feel like recording anyway. It was such a bad result. I came away from Vicarage Road really angry. Actually, I don't usually get that stressed at football because I always go to football with the view that regardless of how much we sing from the stands, we can't really influence what happens on the pitch. It's largely down to the players. But I felt helpless, on Wednesday when we faced Crystal Palace. It was a really, really poor result. Sissoko scored a goal, which is a rarity, but largely, the game was absolutely dreadful. You had Roy Hodgson facing his former club. Wilfried Zaha scored 2 goals. The 4th goal was absolutely ridiculous. It was just
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it was just a bad day overall. The atmosphere inside Vicarage Road, as it has been this season, was really, really poor. And to be honest, the point at Old Trafford's good, but looking back at some of the home results we've had, losing to Norwich, Palace, Brighton, I think the point against Man United for me is meaningless, really, because I'd much rather we pick up the points against the teams in and around us. But yeah, as I've said, it was an awful result on Wednesday. Yes, it was a much improved performance at Old Trafford. I'd say it was a lot better than the performance on Wednesday. But still, obviously, Manchester United did deserve to win the game.
Yeah, well, because I had tonsillitis, I didn't attend the game, so I was streaming it at home, and it's the first time I've ever ended a stream early. The moment that 3rd goal went in, I was like, I'm not. I feel like shit. I'm not watching this. I'm not putting myself through it. And then I had a notification for Watford a few minutes later saying Zaha's made it 4-1. I was like, brilliant. I'm going to
Yeah.
bed. It's just terrible. Like, I just wanted a bit of a bite from Watford against Palace, which we've seen before with other teams. I don't know if that's because of the personnel in the squad's changed, where it's probably meant a bit more to the people in the squad, where they've all probably moved on now, like the likes of Troy Dean and Etienne Capoue. And now maybe the Watford players, when they come up against Palace, are like, oh, it's just another Premier League team. But to us fans, it's not just another Premier League team, is it, James? But just got a message from Mike Duffy. He's watching. He's commented on the performance against Crystal Palace. Horrendous performance, he's called it. How can we go from such a compact performance against a strong Villa side to losing to a Palace side who hadn't won in 2022? I'll tell you why, Mike. It is what Watford do. It's a very Watford-y thing to do. Expect for unexpected with Watford, really. You can't say anything else. You expect them to pick up points against the lower sides. Doesn't happen, and they manage to pick up points against the bigger sides, which James has already mentioned. And we're going to talk about it now. So, jumping straight into the Manchester United result. The Watford team that lined up at Old Trafford was Ben Foster in goal. Jeremy Ngakia came in for Kiko Femenia, who I believe was suffering from a knock. Craig Cathcart, Samir, and Kamara makes up the back four. Sissoko, Imran Loser, Tom Cleverley in the midfield three, and up front was Ismail Assar, Emmanuel Dennis, and Joshua King. So, any shocks in that, James? No, actually, I won't go any shocks. I want to bring up about Tom Cleverley really first. I don't think his performances lately warrant a start week in, week out. I don't see, from the stands point of view, what he actually is doing at the moment. He runs a lot for the team. I give him that. He does put a lot of work on the pitch and runs around, but I don't see what else he really brings to the team, and I do think it's affecting us. I don't want to use Tom Cleverley as a scapegoat. We have had scapegoats before at Watford, haven't we? We've had the Chalobah, Trusicon, and now maybe it's Tom Cleverley, but really his performances haven't been good enough to warrant all these starts, have they, James?
They haven't. And actually, going back to the Crystal Palace game, as we just discussed, I think that really showed where Tom Cleverley's lacking in his game. You know, you mentioned, yes, he runs around a lot, but really, is that a good trait to have? You know, he might run around a lot, he might put in the effort, he might run 10 kilometres a game, but if he doesn't have the quality on the ball, if he doesn't have the quality to play in midfield and the composure to play in midfield, I think that's a real issue for us. And I think it's quite evident to everyone that, you know, Tom Cleverley, you know, is one of Hodgson's favourites. I think he played under Hodgson for England.
Yeah, he received all of his England caps under Roy Hodgson, 13 of them. So, yeah, there's obviously a connection there, and Hodgson does favour him, doesn't he?
I think that's absolutely fair enough, and I can see why Roy would play him, because he obviously trusts him in a sense. But, you know, looking at the past, I'd say 5 or 6 games even, I'd say Kayembe offers a lot more than Tom Cleverley has done. But I do think Roy Hodgson will persist with Cleverley because, as I said, you know, he's one of his favourite players. He trusts him. As you say, he played 13 times for Roy at international level with England. So I don't think there's anything we as fans can necessarily do about it. But I do think Kayembe deserves a chance, because Kayembe has done nothing wrong, and Cleverley has shown in the past 4 or 5 games that he's just not up to Premier League level at the moment. And, you know, he's aging as well. He's 31, 32 years old. He's not going to get any better. So I think it's time. You know, it's crunch time now. We haven't got any time left in the season. I think Kayembe, you know, does deserve a chance to prove himself.
Yeah, I'm going to jump to Freddie B's comment here, who's just popped up saying, I love Cleverley, but Kayembe and Etabu are too good for the bench. And I agree. I'd rather Kayembe or Etabu, who's actually starting for Watford, ahead of Tom Cleverley. I do think they bring more to the team. Etabu, for example, where he gets stuck in a lot more and actually wins challenges. I just look at Tom Cleverley and he just commits fouls. He doesn't really win the ball. He's like the Paul Scholes tackler, isn't he, at the moment, where he just never wins the ball, and it's just like he ends up in the book, and it's just frustrating because he has had that side to him, but because he's getting a bit older, maybe he's slower to react and slower to get into tackles. But like the Villa, what was it? He came on to a game the other week, and he came off the bench, and he just rammed into people. Burnley away, he was just sliding into everyone, just taking them out. Come on, Tom. But KMB, he offers so much more as well. I love how he gets the ball, he spins with his body, and his first thought is to look up and look forward, and he travels up the pitch. He's comfortable with the ball at his feet as well. And then to bring Mike Duffy back in as well, he's saying can't wait to chat next season, saying how good cleverly he is and how key he is to the team in the Championship. But this is a thing, Mike. We're on about the Premier League, and he's not up to scratch in the Premier League, and he might be all right in the Championship, and we might have to deal with Tom Cleverley next season. But that's a bit later on down the line. And for me, Premier League is not good enough, and I don't even know if he will be good enough if we're like fighting for a team fighting for promotion next season. Yeah, last season he was massive for that, James, wasn't he? He was a big leader of the team, and he did play a massive part in getting Watford promoted. But 2 years down the line, I don't see him being that much of an effect in the Championships next season. Do you?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm not entirely sure when his contract expires. I believe it is 2023, but as I say, I'm not sure about that. Okay. Yeah, he obviously will be, one of our key players in the Championship if we go down. I wouldn't necessarily expect him to start every game. I do think if we can keep the likes of Louza, Kayembe, Etebo, I think that would be, a good midfield base to build off. But there's no doubt in Tom Cleverley cares about the club. I think that's evident to everyone. Yeah. He's been here for a long time, over 2 different spells, and he wants to do the best for the club. So I'm not doubting his, overall, love for the club or wanting to do well for the club. I just think sometimes, players can get, too old in their careers for a certain level. And I think Tom Cleverley's probably reached that stage, and that's not his fault. That's just the natural progression of a professional football player. So, yeah, Tom Cleverley is a good professional. He runs around a lot, but at the moment, it doesn't look like he has the quality to be a Premier League midfielder, unfortunately.
Runs around like a ball in a china shop, as Mike would probably say.
Yeah, in his Birmingham accent.
In his Birmingham accent. I would attempt it, but I'd completely butcher it. I'd just make myself look stupid. So I'll leave that one to Mike. But another guy who he came in for the start, it was Ngakia, James. How did you think he'd get on? Obviously, I've seen a lot of people say on social media that he did really struggle yesterday, and maybe it's down to game time. He's not playing consistently, is he? He's maybe featuring for a game or two and then missing 5-6 games, and then he's been called upon again for a game or two. It must be difficult to play consistently well, or even well, when you're in and out of the team so often.
Yeah, it is. And, just talking about his performance in general yesterday, I thought it was a poor performance. I thought, Ronaldo, Bruno, Pogba, that they got the better of him throughout the entire game. But that's not really Ngakia's fault. He's a young man. He's just starting out his career, really, at Watford. And, he's a Premier League fullback at the moment. And, he's obviously not at the level currently. I've seen a few people on Twitter saying, maybe we should have loaned him out at the start of the season. But I think, Ngakia probably expected to receive more game time than he has done. I think Kiko Femenia will probably leave this summer as well. So I think, the question's open there whether, we probably will go down. And I think Ngakia is good enough to be a starting left back in the Championship. Yeah, I don't really know how to answer your question, to be honest. I mean, obviously, we need to improve.
Do you think with Ngakia, do you feel that we've probably wasted his talent? Do you remember when we signed him and under Ivic, he was playing consistently at right wing back or right back, and he was playing really well, great performance. And I think it was top of like the tackle charts at one point of the season for interceptions as well. Since Ivic went, he kind of lost his place to Kiko Femenia, didn't he? And he's struggled to get back into the team. But yeah, do you think he's just struggled since then, and that's really like affected his performances?
I think it's 2 different circumstances, because you know, the first instance you mentioned, we're in the Championship, we've got a good squad, and we're fighting for promotion, and then we're in the Premier League, and we're struggling, you know, to battle against relegation. So, you know, there's, you know, you're playing in the progressive team, and then you're playing in the really, really passive team, and I think that's probably hindered him. I think you could probably argue that the managerial changes have hindered him as well. If he worked under a coach for a longer period of time, you could really, you know, tailor his game and get him to train, you know, as well as possible. I think Xisco was probably the man for that. Unfortunately, at Watford, that's not the case. That the managerial turnover is really, really high. So I think there's a number of factors really, but he's still really, really young. He's only just turned 21, I think, as well. So he's got plenty of time to develop. I'd assume he'd be the starting right back in the Championship if we went down as well. So I'm not too concerned. He's doing as well as he can do. Like I said with Tom Cleverley, I can't fault their effort. They're doing as best as they can for the club. But sometimes, you know, the Premier League just isn't someone's level at the moment, and I think that's the case for Jeremy Ngakia.
Definitely, and obviously the match started, and it was backs against the wall really for Watford, wasn't it? Manchester United, just opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, and they missed the lot. They struggled. It's not like they weren't getting in the right positions. Ronaldo was in acres of space within 4 minutes, and his shot cannoned off the post, and luckily Watford managed to clear the ball away. But warning signs of there early on, James. How was you feeling at that point? Was you thinking, "Ah, crap! It's going to be a long afternoon. This could be a big scoreline." But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, I mean, the first 10, you know, I say the first 10 minutes, the whole game was just a barrage of Manchester United attacks. I thought the first few minutes, actually, Watford did well to assert themselves in Manchester United. We tried to counter-attack a couple of times through Dennis, Sarr and Joshua King, and I did think that worked to an extent, but obviously after the first few minutes, you know, Manchester United, with the players they've got, they kind of asserted their dominance on us, and you know, we did very, very well to get to halftime 0-0. You mentioned the Ronaldo chance there that hit the post. He obviously should have scored there with the quality he's got. Bruno Fernandes had a one-on-one opportunity with Ben Foster. On any day of the week, you know, you'd bet your house on the fact that Bruno Fernandes was score that opportunity. Shout out to Ben Foster, by the way, because I thought he did really, really well just to kind of close down the angles in that game, because they did have so many opportunities, Manchester United. There's not really much for me to say in the regard of the Watford performance, because as I said, you know, we were, you know, really under the cosh for the entirety of the 90 minutes, bar a few counter-attacking opportunities. But when I got to halftime, you know, I did kind of had a little bit of hope. You know, Ismaila Sarr was creating a few opportunities. I think Dennis, you know, challenged De Gea with, you know, with a crap shot pretty much. It was a very odd performance, and I think we should be grateful that the luck went our way, actually, because, you know, how many times I've been sat here this season, Ben, and said, oh, VAR didn't go our way, oh, the shot went in off a deflection. But actually, you know, looking at the Manchester United game yesterday, the luck did go our way, and we actually come away with an undeserved draw, which I know a lot of fans are obviously happy about.
Yeah, like you say, luck went our way. Like, for example, Ronaldo had a disallowed goal as well. He could have been onside on other occasions, and it would be 1-0. Yeah, just offside. So luckily that went our way as well. And it's not often you go in at half time at 0-0, and that would have really given the boys confidence going in at half time, thinking, right, okay, we're 45 minutes down, just another 45 minutes to go, boys. Same again, please. And how did you think second half we reacted from half time? Was it a case of wave after wave of attack again, James? Did we deal with it well?
I don't think we necessarily, you know, dealt with it very well. I think similarly to the first half, they had a lot of opportunities. Pogba and Matic actually dominated the midfield. I thought Imran Louza for us was really our only competent midfielder. And actually, going in at half time, I really wanted Roy to make a couple of changes, because João Pedro had just come back from injury, which I thought was really, really important to us. I expected João Pedro to play some minutes at least yesterday, which ultimately Roy, you know, chose not to bring him on. And I ultimately wanted Roy as well to take Tom Cleverley off and bring Kayembe on to kind of get a bit more control of that midfield area. But for some reason, Roy Hodgson opted not to make them substitutions at half time.
Was you surprised that he did? Was you surprised he didn't make a sub at half time then? Because he waited till the 63rd minute for his double substitution, didn't he?
I wasn't surprised because, seeing Roy in the first 4 or 5 games that he's been at Watford is very, very stubborn. He doesn't really want to make changes. I think he's very set on the first 11 players he puts out. And I think he wanted to give players like Tom Cleverley a chance to kind of go out and redeem themselves. But actually, as a fan wanting to win games, I wanted them substitutions to be made early so we can go and win the game. Instead, Roy opted to obviously wait until about the 65th minute to make the substitutions. And actually, the substitutions he made were, quite frankly, in my opinion, they were exactly what I expect from Roy Hodgson. Negative, sitting back for the draw. In this case, it's gone in his favour because we did actually get the draw, but it could so have easily gone against us. We could have lost 2-3, 4-0, and then we'd all be sitting here going, why did Roy make such negative substitutions? And I don't know if you want to discuss them, Ben, but for me personally, I thought they were so negative and really hindered us actually in terms of going forward.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up the substitutions, and firstly, Joshua King didn't really look fit. I didn't think first half he was holding his back throughout, and it was surprised that he wasn't subbed earlier than what he actually was. But like you said, 63rd minute, it was a double substitution for Watford. It was Ken Sema on for Joshua King, and Christian Cabaselli came on for Jeremy Ngakia. And then obviously later on in the 80th minute, Kushka came on for Tom Cleverley. But like you say, it's negative looking at it. It's not going to get you excited, is it? It's not going to win you the game. Like you got you got Hernandez on the bench, you got João Pedro on the bench, you got KMB who's like being overlooked as well. You would have liked at least one of them to come on, just be like taking off Josh King, like just João Pedro on. You know what he can do. He can hold the ball up very well, and with skill and trickery, we've seen what he's done against Manchester United this season already with his goal. It's like give a boy the chance. I just thought it was negative, James. And like you say, he's becoming very stubborn, Roy Hodgson. You know he's not going to make a change at half time. You know he's going to play the trusted people that he prefers. And you just know that when it comes to substitutions, it's not the first time that it's came to substitutions and Watford fans have been like, well, this is negative. Like Ken Sema's getting a lot of game time at the moment, and nothing against Ken Sema, but I don't see what he brings to the team. I don't think he's Premier League level. Championship, he did a good job for us last season, but Premier League, you need Premier League players, and Ken Sema is definitely not that. Would have preferred Hernandez over him. I think he does better defensive work than Ken Sema. I think he offers more going forward for Ken Sema. And João Pedro, I would say the same about him in both of those categories as well. It's just I'm frustrated with the lack of attack from the bench. Really, it's like you say, James. If Watford lost that, it would get overlooked. No, it wouldn't get overlooked, and people would be massive uproar about it. But because we've managed to get a point out of it, it's like, oh, we won't talk about it that much because we've managed to get a point out of it. But really, it's like, and it's the performances have been poor as well again, James, haven't they? It's like there's no hope. Like, do you remember back in November time when we was coming against the big sides against Chelsea, Manchester City, and we walked away from those games with a lot of pride and proud of our teams, going, "Oh, we might have lost, but boy, did our boys put in a shift." And it was like, yeah, I'm actually really proud of them, and we really could have won either of those games, especially the Chelsea one that stands out the most. But now we're back in February time now. No, February, yeah, March on Tuesday. And the performance levels is complete. Watford is so unrecognisable from that team back in November, aren't they? It's just like, what has happened? Like that passion and desire being aggressive, and we just look like a wounded animal.
Yeah, we do, and it's just it's this classic Roy Hodgson. And I've watched Roy Hodgson's post-match thoughts, and he seems to be delighted with the point, and I know a lot of Watford fans are, and I'm happy with the point. Don't get me wrong, but I'm under the impression where we should be trying to, regardless of the opposition we're coming up against, whether it be Crawley Town or Manchester United, I want to go and try and get 3 points from every single game. And against Manchester United, we didn't try to do that. Yes, we had very, very few opportunities. Dennis had an opportunity with De Gea that he should have done, you know, much better with. But apart from that, Watford didn't have any clear-cut opportunities. Manchester United have 5 clear-cut opportunities, which all of them could have quite easily nestled into the back of the net. And I just feel that to stay in the Premier League, there has to be a little bit of risk on Roy Hodgson's part, where, you know, he does have to go for games. He got very, very, very lucky against Manchester United to walk away with a clean sheet. If that was Man City, if that was Liverpool, they've got even better players than United, and they would have obviously punished us. And we still have to go and play them sides this season. So I do think Roy Hodgson does have to be a little bit more progressive in how he's playing, a bit more gung-ho, as he said previously. And yeah, you know, we've got the talent on the bench. He had the talent there to choose from. You know, he had the option to bring them players on. Instead, he brought on Kuchka, Sema, and Kabasele, when instead he could have brought on João Pedro, Kayembe, and Cucho Hernandez. And they're very, very different players. And you could clearly see what Roy Hodgson was trying to do. So for me, yes, the draw was great, blah, blah, blah. But I'd much rather, you know, get the draws and get the wins against Crystal Palace, Brighton, Norwich than against Manchester United, because those are the teams we're competing against. We're not competing with Manchester United. We're competing with them teams, and we've already blown it out the water. So, yeah, that's my rant over. But however much I say it, Ben, Roy isn't going to get more progressive. He's going to carry on the way he has done, because that's how he's managed, you know, throughout his career, really.
I think what's frustrating is it's Watford's home form, isn't it? Obviously, Watford have lost like 6 games consecutively at home now, and I think that's the first time in Premier League history for Watford that we've lost 6 games in a row. I can understand how he sets up away from home, and I said on the last week's podcast that I do think Watford are probably set up better to play away from home, and we can probably pick up more points away from home than what we do at home. But at home, we need to be more progressive, like you say, James, and we need to be more attacking, and we need to be more confident. Like you say, we've got the players. Those front 3, on their day, they are unplayable. Every single one of them. Josh King, Ismail Assar, Emmanuel Dennis, all on their day, unplayable. And we saw it for large portions of that first half of the season, but it was our defence letting it down. Now we're getting to a stage in the season where we need to see more points. And I know going to Old Trafford, picking up a point, it's good, but performance wasn't really there. Mike's put in a comment saying, very clear to see that Roy was brought in to do one thing, shore up that defence, stop leaking goals. He's done it everywhere he's gone. And I do agree with you, Mike. He was brought in to sort out that defence, and he has done that straight away. Look, he's got 3 clean sheets out of the last 4 away games for Watford, and I can't believe we're saying about that, James. 3 clean sheets in the last 4 Watford away games is really good, but that really needs to turn into home form now. It's vital that we keep clean sheets at home. Like the Palace game was absolutely just atrocious, but we've got Arsenal next as well. It's not going to get easier. It's going to be tough to keep clean sheets, but we need to keep them at home. It's brilliant that we're picking up points away from home now. I think that will help us. But home, you got to turn that home form around, don't we, James? That's what's going to keep us in this division. It's a home form. But do you reckon it's because it's getting a bit toxic now at the Vic, isn't it? It's fans are starting to down tools. Like we've seen it recently in games where it's getting to the last 10, 15 minutes. If Watford concede and we're losing or losing heavily, everyone ups and leaves, and that's it. It's like fans can't be bothered to sit there and just watch their team perform like that. And me, for one, I don't blame them. I've joined them on an occasion this season. It's been unacceptable. But I don't know how the players are going to turn it around, because they're losing everyone. But the home form has to be the key, James, here, isn't it?
It is the key, and I think it's the key to us staying up, to be honest. Yes, a point away at Old Trafford's good. Yes, you know, you could argue a draw away at Burnley is good as well. But the home form, you know, any team that wants to stay in the Premier League really has to be picking up points at home. And I think we've got 3, you know, crucial home games that coming up for the rest of the season. We've got Leeds at home, we've got Everton at home, and we've got Brentford at home, and those are teams all above us, and they are all in, you know, in distance so that Watford can make up and drag them, you know, right down with us in this relegation battle. So those are the 3 games for me where, if we want to stay in the Premier League, I'd argue we have to win every game. Every game, you know, Leeds we've got to win, Everton we've got to win, Brentford we've got to win. I don't expect us to beat Arsenal because Arsenal have the quality to beat us. I didn't expect us to even get a draw against Manchester United. So
we've got Burnley at home as well.
That's another one to throw in the mix, Ben. Exactly. So, you know, that's 4 home games. You know, 12 points there that are up for grabs at Vicarage Road against teams in and around us. And at the moment, you know, Watford in the past few weeks have lost to Brighton, Norwich, and Crystal Palace. So it doesn't personally give me a lot of confidence. I don't know what it is with our home form, really. I don't know whether the pressure of the fans maybe gets to the players. I know we've discussed it on here before, Ben, but I can't really. I don't know if you have any idea either, but I can't really put my finger on what's causing, you know, this run of form at home, because the away form at the moment, in any normal season, I'd be delighted, but the home form's so bad, and I do think the pressure from the stands is transferring to the players.
I just get a sense of feeling every time I walk into Vicarage Road at the moment. It's very nervous, and fans aren't looking forward to the games that are coming up. Like, I can't remember going to Vicarage Road and being excited for a game lately. It's been more dread. It's like, oh, how are we going to get on today?
Yeah.
How many are we going to lose by? Are we going to see a performance? And Watford fans, I think Watford fans are getting used to that feeling at the moment as well. I think Watford fans are probably can admit to thinking that Watford are going to get relegated, and are thinking, well, I can't see us staying up, so it's just going to go downhill from here. But there is still a chance. There's still a chance Watford can turn it around. We keep the clean sheets away from home and transition that into home form. We could stay up. Mike's popped up at the bottom saying that he's actually going to the Arsenal game, his first trip to Vicarage Road since losing to Everton in 2019. Cheers for reminding me on that, Mike. And he's also said that 6 out of the 7 remaining home games are against the bottom half of the table. That's absolutely massive. You have to win, like you say earlier, James. You'd rather pick up that point that we picked up against Manchester United, against the Palace, who are down at towards the bottom of the table, or they were until they beat us, instead of picking up a point against Manchester United, who they're not going to be near Watford at the end of the season. But coming up against 6 out of the 7 last home games against bottom half opposition, you've got to go into that one in 6 victories out of that. You really have to. And I don't know where it's going to come from, because, like I said, our last victory at home was back in November against Manchester United. We've just lost 6 consecutive games in a row at home as well. We've got Arsenal next, which is on TV, if I'm right, James. It's on TV this weekend.
I believe is it on Sunday, Arsenal? I can't remember. Is it
2 o'clock kickoff, I think it is. I think it is on Sky, 2 o'clock.
Yes, Sky Sunday.
Maybe Watford up their games for Sky. Who knows? I know teams do play a bit better in front of the TV cameras, so let's hope and keep our fingers crossed that Watford are one of those teams, and we turn up. And it's I'm not going to call it a local derby, because obviously we know who our rivals are in that, but it's a team that's not too far away from Watford. So Arsenal will be bringing down a strong crowd, and Watford, I imagine Vicarage Road sold out. But we can grab something against Arsenal. I said last week we can grab something against Manchester United. I knew that we could go over and get something just because I know our away form's decent, but home, it's going to be tight, isn't it, James? But
well, just quickly on what Mike said there, you know, with 6 of the 7 remaining home games being against, you know, bottom half teams, you know, alongside Watford. If we win 5 of them games, that's 15 points. That's potentially enough to keep Watford in the Premier League. So essentially, all Roy has got to drill into the players now is you win your remaining home games against them sides, you're a Premier League team next season. If we fail to do that, we've then got to go away to Liverpool. We've got to go away to Manchester City. And suddenly the task is so much harder. And I'd argue the task is almost impossible at that point. So if we can make Vicarage Road a fortress like we did in the Championship last season, I think we did, a similar thing under Nigel Pearson. I remember beating Man United at home. We beat Liverpool at home. We beat Villa at home as well, I think, didn't we? So we've done it under Nigel Pearson before. We ultimately got relegated. Can we do it under Roy Hodgson and hopefully, keep our Premier League status? Because I think that's the key for Watford now. 6 of the 7 home games against bottom half teams. That's massive. That's massive. I didn't even realise that until today. And that's given me confidence. But equally, I'm not confident in the slightest because of our form up to date. So, I'm just bring it on is what I would say.
The thing is, it was a good point to pick up at Old Trafford. Other teams did lose as well. We saw Leeds get smashed again by Spurs. Brentford lost again, who I mentioned last week on that slide. They are losing a lot of games in a row now. So I can see them being dragged into it. But to get teams dragged into it, we have to start winning games. And hopefully that comes this Sunday. But just want to say, James, as well, we have picked up 4 points out of the last 3 games. We've picked up 4 points against Aston Villa, Palace, and Manchester United. Would you say the form would have been better if we say we beat Villa, point against Palace, and then lost to Manchester United? But because we've won against Villa, we took a big defeat at home to Palace, and then we've picked up a point against Manchester United. Do you think that says to us that our form's not great just because of the way round that we've picked up these points? Or I don't know if that sounds silly.
No, I know what you're trying to say. I think the way you've said it, I'd much rather pick up the points against the teams in and around us, because then you're having a direct effect on your relegation rivals. Picking up a draw against Manchester United is great in the context of the game and the opposition, but it doesn't have really an effect on Burnley, Everton, Norwich. It doesn't have an effect because you've not taken the points directly off of them. Whereas if we drew to Crystal Palace and we took 2 points off of them that they would have otherwise had, then suddenly the table's very, very different. So I think you're right. I'd much rather have beat Aston Villa, drawn with Palace, and lost to Man United, because quite frankly, I couldn't care less about Man United. I care about the team in and around Watford. So if I had the option, if I was God looking down on Vicarage Road, that's what I would do. But I don't have that power, unfortunately. Only the players have that power. But I do think you have a valid point, and we need to start taking points directly off our rivals, because ultimately the relegation battle is in our control. If we win our remaining home games, we're safe. But it's not that easy, obviously. So it's an interesting dynamic to bring up. But yeah.
Do you reckon fans would have taken 4 points out of those last 3 games? Because Mike's just came up saying 4 points against Villa, Palace, United. I've taken that beforehand. Would you have taken 4 points out of those fixtures?
I would have taken the points. Obviously,
but would have wanted more performance-wise.
Yeah, I would have wanted more performance-wise. I also wanted to. I would have wanted something from the Palace game as well. I don't really want to get absolutely spanked by Palace 4-1. I'd much rather that had been a closer game. Nick a draw, nick a win. Instead, it's been the other way around. We've got an undeserved draw against Manchester United. We've beat Aston Villa, which we didn't expect at all, and we've lost to Palace, which we thought would be the game where potentially we could win. So the results have kind of been a bit odd. But yeah, I would have taken it beforehand. I think it's a good point to bring up, but ultimately, I want more than 4 points. I want to win every single game. Obviously, that's not possible because we are only Watford. But yeah, I think Mike's right in bringing that up. I think 4 points against them 3 teams is good. But obviously, I do want much more.
4 points out of those last 3 games, but I'll throw this at you, James. Out of our next 3 games, we've got Arsenal at home, Wolves away, Southampton away. How many points are you thinking we could probably get out of those 3 games?
Arsenal, Wolves, Southampton. I don't think we'll beat Arsenal. I don't think we'll beat Wolves. So I think Southampton is the one for me. But then again, they are doing well. So realistically, maybe again 4 points out of them 3, but that's not enough. That's not enough to stay in the Premier League. We need to be really winning 2 of them games. I I think Arsenal, we seem to always have a chance against Arsenal at Vicarage Road. We always seem to have a few chances in the game. I remember when Tom Cleverley scored that last-minute goal, and the scenes in Vicarage Road were great. I'm sure Ben was there as well, right behind the rookery. I'd take 4 points, like the 3 games just gone. Ideally, I'd want 2 wins though, whether that be against Arsenal and Southampton or Wolves and Southampton. I do think the Southampton game's probably the easiest out of the 3, but then again, no Premier League game's easy. So I'm talking complete bollocks, to be honest. We just need to win. we need to win 2 of the 3, pretty much is what I'm trying to say.
Well, yeah, we definitely need to do that. I think we've still got a game in hand as well, don't we? Well, we've got a game in hand on Brentford, so I think that's vital. And isn't that game in hand the rearranged game for Wolves game? I think.
Yeah,
Wolves
I
got
so. Yeah,
postponed over Christmas, so that's our game to catch up with Brentford. But we're level on games with Norwich and Leeds.
I think Burnley have 2 games in hand though on us.
Yeah, Burnley and Everton have 2 less than us. But yeah, goal difference for Watford -22. It's not the worst in the league. I think it's the 3rd worst in the league actually. Norwich got -40. Leeds have got -31. Watford -22. And then you have to go to Newcastle and Brentford on -17 if you're looking at the goal difference and maybe an extra point on what other teams have got. But yeah, Arsenal this weekend, James. You just said you're not expecting Watford to win. What are you expecting from this Watford side that's going to face Arsenal at weekend? Are you expecting another negative performance? Are you expecting another, or are you expecting a gun ho performance, James?
I'm not expecting a gung ho performance from Roy Hodgson. I think we've all learned that Roy Hodgson does not play gung ho football. What am I expecting? I'd like another clean sheet, but I don't really think that's going to happen. I just want to see a performance where I can leave Vicarage Road and go, I'm really proud of the team today. I'm really proud of the performance they put in. We might have lost, but actually the performance we put in, the effort levels we put in, that they were great. That's what I'm hoping for. I don't actually mind when Watford lose games. I'm quite chilled out about it most of the time. What annoys me is when the team clearly are not playing for the badge, and we've had too many of them performances this season, and especially from certain players as well. I do think there's certain players that need to be brought out of the team, but for their own good. So I just want to see a performance where the players play for the badge. We might lose the game, but actually I don't expect us to beat Arsenal. All I want is a good performance, good effort levels, and if we can nick something, then great. But if not, Wolves, Southampton, that's who we should be trying to pick points off, especially Southampton. But yeah, if we do get something off Arsenal, it will be a positive, of course.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult afternoon at the Vic. I'm not expecting much at all. I think it's going to be a very...
Are you going to the game, Ben? Because obviously you couldn't go to the Palace game.
Yeah, I couldn't go because of the tonsillitis. But yeah, I'll be going to the game on Sunday, 2:00 kickoff.
I keep thinking it's Saturday. I'm probably going to turn up on Saturday at 3:00 and wonder why there's no game.
I wouldn't be surprised if you do that, to be totally honest. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. And I think it's going to be similar to the recent home performances that we've seen as well. I think it's going to be similar to the Brighton performance at home. That first half where it's very negative. We've sat deep, we've invited pressure on, we've respected the opposition too much, and we've just literally just defended the width of the penalty box and just stuck everyone in front of the ball, and it's just going to be an ugly performance. I don't think Roy Hodgson's going to switch it up. I don't think he's going to add any attacking players to the starting lineup to give us that progression in the side that we need. It's just very lackluster at the moment under Roy Hodgson as well. But James, if you were in charge of a Watford team, would you make any changes to that team to prepare yourself for Arsenal? I know one person who's probably be coming out of the team straight away. But yeah, would you make a couple of changes to that Watford team?
There's 2 players that are coming out for me. The first one is Joshua King. From reading what Roy Hodgson said after the game, he knew Joshua King still had a back injury, and he still started him against Manchester United.
I don't know why you risk him.
Well, it's baffling to me. You know, why would you start an injured Joshua King when you've got Cucho Hernandez or João Pedro on the bench to come in his place? It's crazy management, and again, I think that just shows that Roy Hodgson has his favourites and he is stubborn about his selections. So, as I said, the one change I would make up front is Joshua King out and João Pedro in, because I think João Pedro has the potential to be one of the best players in the Premier League, to be honest, you know, later in his career. So I'd bring João Pedro in, of course. And the other change I would make, again, another Roy Hodgson favourite is Tom Cleverley. I love Tom. I've literally got a signed photo of him up on my bedroom wall to the right of me here. However, he's clearly not up to Premier League standard anymore. I think that's been clear for a very long time, if we're being honest. And I'd bring in Kayembe for him. Kayembe, only 22 years old. As you said earlier, Ben, progressive in his passing. He looks to pass forward as much as possible. He's physical, he's strong, he's tall. He's exactly what we need in the midfield, really, at the moment. So for me, King out, Pedro in, Cleverley out, and Kayembe in.
Yeah, I think I'd probably do the same, mate. Josh King, if he's not fit, don't start him. It could cause him a lot of grief further down his line in his career. And I know you want your better players to play to try and get you out of his position, but playing an injured Joshua King, who's probably at 50%, he was holding his back for the duration of that first half, is not the way to go about it. So yeah, João Pedro has to come into this starting lineup. We've said this before. When João Pedro plays, he offers so much to this team. I love his willingness to get forward, his trickery. I think his ability to hold the ball up for such a young guy as well. But like Freddie B's just popped up and said, we all know Roy won't change a thing. And I think you're spot on, Freddie. We're just thinking out loud, saying what we would like to do and what you would like to do, Freddie. Let us know what you would want to do to the side. But you're all right. Like James has said all evening, he seems to be very stubborn. And I don't know if you've read this as well, James. I've actually read a lot of things that ex-Palace players have said about Roy Hodgson lately, especially Wilfried Zaha, who said that he wouldn't really give the attackers time of the day in training grounds and wouldn't really work on their patterns of play or anything. Have you seen the same bits?
I have. And actually, I can kind of see what Wilfried Zaha's saying, because,
Yeah.
you know, seeing a couple of quotes from Roy Hodgson's press conferences at Watford, he's kind of just said, you know, let the midfield pass the ball to the attacking players and let the attacking players score the goals. If they can't score goals for Watford, that's their problem. That's essentially what Roy Hodgson said in his previous press conferences. And as you say, that kind of relates to what Wilfried Zaha said as well. There's so much focus on setting up defensively and you know, sitting low and you know, sitting with 2 blocks of 4, that actually, when we do get the ball and we do, you know, venture forward on very rare occasions, we don't really have any idea what to do. So as much as I hate Wilfried Zaha, I think he's offered an insight into kind of how Roy Hodgson manages. And you know, you saw how good Palace were on Wednesday. Yeah. Zaha caused us all sort of problems down that left wing, and I wish you know, I wish we could have Zaha in our team, and I wish we could have Vieira managing us, because the football he plays and the attacking talent they've got, they're utilising it. Whereas at Watford, we seem to not want to utilise our best talent, and that is going forward. And it's baffling, because to win games, you do need to score goals. Yes, clean sheets, you know, can pick up points, and you know, we picked up a point against Old Trafford, but to go and get the 3 points, not just the point, you need to go and score a goal, and that's what your attacking players can do. So I did think that was very, very interesting from Wilfried Zaha.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, and like you say, we've seen it at Watford within about 6-7 games that he's been here. He's really just our attack's just gone so flat. It used to be fluent. I was saying before at the start of the season that the front three would all interchange and link up really well together. And we've not seen that at all since Roy Hodgson's been in charge. And I just hope we don't go down the line of, I understand that he wants to make us solid and that, but we've got to start playing to our strengths with the attackers. And I think it was the Palace game that I was watching the other night. It was just for long balls up towards our front three. You can't just give them long balls. That's not what they're going to get the best out of the team, by giving our front three long balls to just run onto. I hope that it bounces overhead and Saar runs onto the end of it and sticks it in the back of the net. You just can't expect that. I just feel like he's really taken away our ammunition at the moment with our front three, and hopefully it comes back against Arsenal. Freddie B's actually came back and said, I do agree with you guys. Clevs and King out for KMB and João Pedro or Kushka. Yeah, Chucho, I mean, so I wouldn't mind Chucho coming in as well. I do think he would maybe offer a little bit more than Joshua King at the moment if he is injured. And then Mike Duffy says, Zaha in our team, cut him out, cut him from the stream, Ben. So yeah, I don't think James is coming back next week. I will say about Wilfred Zaha though, James. I've got a picture of a picture with him. I bumped into him at my brother's birthday at Fort Park.
This is very random, Ben.
It is very random, yeah. I'll try and find a photo next time when we're on. But okay. Yeah, bumped into Wilfred Zaha at Fort Park, and I got a picture with him. I didn't tell him I was a Watford fan. He wouldn't have stopped to give me a photo, but he is a talented guy. I don't like him on the football pitch, but I do admire his ability on the ball when he is on the ball and not rolling around on the floor. That is. But James, just quickly, one question. I'm not going to ask you a score prediction this week. We'll give it a rest. Mike Duffy says, I remember this, and then done those just snake emojis. Cheers, mate. Do you think Watford will stay up?
Wow. Oh my gosh, I was not expecting that question. Do I think Watford will stay up? No. I don't think we'll stay up, and I've kind of accepted that fact. So what I've done is I've kind of accepted that we are going to get relegated. So if we do end up staying up by a miracle, then obviously I'm very, very happy. I just think with the mistakes the owners have made, the managers have brought in, the player recruitment, the way the club's run in general, we deserve to be relegated. You know, as a club, the way we've operated, we don't deserve to be a Premier League football club. We haven't got Premier League football players, and ultimately our manager, is not good enough for the Premier League at the moment. So, do I think we'll get relegated? Yes. However, we're not quite there yet. There still is that tiny, tiny, tiny bit of hope. So yeah, I do think there's a 95% chance we'll get relegated. However, Ben, I am going to be optimistic, and if we do, start picking up points at home as well as away from home, then I think there's a chance, but there's only a very, very small chance.
If we stay up, are you jumping in the pond?
No, no. I'll tell you what, I've seen a few people jump in the pond, and I'm sure there's probably some horrible diseases in there or some horrible virus. So it's not for me.
Are you saying because you've seen the state of the people that came out?
No comment.
Tell you what, I'll do anything. If Watford stay up, I've jumped in the sea before down at Brighton when Watford got promoted. I stripped down to my boxers and ran into the sea and jumped in, and I was absolutely hammered that day. That promotion day, that was quality, one of the best days of my life.
I'll tell you what I'll do, Ben. I'll dress up as a banana.
You can't do that. Sam Yuko's done that from WD18. You have to give us another fruit.
Strawberry.
Strawberry. All right, you've heard it here. James, if we stay up, James is dressing up as a strawberry to one of the Watford games, I'm going to say. No,
I've not signed any contracts yet, so this isn't necessarily official.
Freddie B says the word hope kills our fan base sometimes. I do agree with you there, Freddie. Just quickly as well, I'm not going to give my prediction on whether we're going to stay up or not. I'll give it to you next week after the Arsenal performance. But a Watford player who looks like he is actually on the move is Ashley Fletcher. He is close to joining New York Red Bulls on loan. The 26-year-old has found game time hard to come by since he's joined the Hornets in the summer. It's just a puzzling one with Ashley Fletcher, isn't it, James? It's like, why did Watford sign him in the first place? And then he's obviously, when he has featured, he's scored, and then he's not really had the opportunity at Watford. He's when we've looked like we needed a plan B sometimes this season, I thought, all right, put Ashley Fletcher up top and see what he can do. But I think he's only had 3 substitution appearances in the Premier League. So it's not it's just been a weird transfer, hasn't it, James?
Yeah, very weird transfer. I think it's 6 appearances overall, 2 goals, 3 substitute appearances. It is very, very odd. I think he signed on a 5-year contract as well, so we've committed a lot of time and money to Ashley Fletcher's contract. And what makes it even more baffling to me, Ben, is if Ashley Fletcher moves to the MLS mid-season, which obviously looks to be a possibility, that means Dan Gosling could have been registered for the Premier League squad. So Gosling's been left out. Fletcher's going to move on, and that means Gosling still can't come in because we obviously missed that registration deadline. So it's very, very odd. I think Samuel Kalu signing's very odd as well. He's not played a single minute for us since he come in January, and we're approaching March now, which is mental.
It's just terrible planning, isn't it?
It's a terrible waste of money. It's a waste of planning. There's a lot wrong about the way Watford operate at the moment. We obviously had the story break from the Daily Mirror, which isn't in relation to Ashley Fletcher, but about obviously unpaid interns at Watford working full-time hours, evenings, weekends, completely unpaid for what would usually be a really, really highly paid job. So I think that's a discussion for another day. But there is a lot wrong about the way the club operates at the moment. And again, I think Ashley Fletcher, Samuel Kalu, Dan Gosling, they highlight the flaws at the club where we sign players for very, very little money. We don't use them, and then we either sell them on for not a lot of money at all and make a loss on them, or in regards to Ashley Fletcher and Dan Gosling, Fletcher might be off, and Gosling, Gosling's probably on thousands of pounds a week, and he's not got to do anything. He's not got to do anything for the rest of the season, which is crazy. So yeah, it's just frustrating. It adds to my frustration about the club at the moment. I feel so detached. That story from the Daily Mirror, frustrated me even more. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Ben, but I think the club's just a disgrace at the moment. They always say we're the original family club. They did that lovely thing with Anne Swanson, but apart from that, I feel so detached from Watford at the moment.
It's terribly run from top to bottom at the moment. And yeah, reading that article in the Mirror the other day, when you was just speaking about it, James, I just couldn't shake my head enough. I'm just furious that our football club would do something like that. It's totally not on, and it's honestly, mate, I'm lost for words, and I wouldn't expect it from a Premier League club. And I thought our club was better, and obviously it's not.
Well, it's not. I think we have to make it clear. It's not just Watford who do unpaid internships. A lot of big companies, and I think a lot of other football clubs do it as well. Because from my perspective, it's my dream to work for Watford, right? So for me personally, I would do anything possible to work for the football club. However, I think reading that article, I think it's gone from people wanting to do the job to actually taking advantage of people, and I think that's where Watford crossed the line. Because maybe working a weekend here and there unpaid, fine, gain experience, I think that's great. People do volunteering all the time, right? But working full-time hours, evenings, weekends for a whole I think it was for a whole season, by the way, for the rest of this season and potentially next season, I think it's disgraceful. I think it's taking advantage of people for opportunities, and I do think Watford need to come out with some sort of statement or something regarding it, because I do think it is, I think morally it's wrong, but it is still legal to do. But I do think a multi-million-pound, family football club need to be operating slightly differently to that.
Definitely, and like you say, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It's just taking advantage of people, and you would expect better from. I know you say it, other companies do it as well, and other football clubs, but this is Watford Football Club, and like you say, it should be the original family club, and Watford need to be doing much better than what they have done recently, and they need to sort that out and address it immediately. If I'm totally honest, but yeah, that's it for Watford this week. Thank you for everyone who's watched and on YouTube and got involved. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Just quickly before we go as well, I know it's not Watford related or anything, but I just wanted to talk about what's going over in Ukraine and that at the moment. And I'm not getting political and all that, but what we're seeing over there is absolutely horrendous. And my heart goes out to everyone who's over in Ukraine at the moment. And I just hope you guys stay strong, and hopefully it's all resolved soon, because it's making me feel a bit emotional. I'm talking about it now. It's just absolutely terrible, and no one should be putting up with what those people are. It's absolutely horrendous. Just stay strong, and hopefully it all gets resolved soon for you guys. But you've got the whole world support, and hopefully it's all sorted out soon. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching. We'll be back next week to talk about the Arsenal game. Hopefully 3 points, hopefully a shot on target before the 88th minute, and just keep our fingers crossed, and have a good week everyone, and we'll be back next week to see you. Stay safe guys, and come on you Horns.